Hi, everyone. I'm Julie Beynon. I am a head of data, team of one. I've been a head of data, team of one in multiple places, and I'm here to share my take on multiple issues that data teams are facing.
I'm Joe Bloom. I'm a data architect, and my background is in enterprise data warehousing.
I'm Jeff Sloan. I've been a data professional, I've been a product manager, and I'm here to talk a little bit about how data can fit in organizations more broadly. Today, this is the first installment of Triple JSON. We're really excited to be here. And to get us started, we're going to noodle this question. How do you deal with duplicate records in the results of your queries or in the tables that you're interacting with? I'm really excited to hear Joe's thoughts here, so I'm going to pitch it over to him to get us off.
So to me, it depends on what modeling layer you're at. If you've got duplicates coming in, either it's an expected thing where you've got information about the same entities coming in from different sources, or it's an unexpected thing where you have something upstream that's producing data that is not at the grain that you would expect. Grain being like, one record per whatever the thing is. To get really technical and hands-on, there's old DBA voices in my head from people I've worked with saying group by all, never select distinct. But, more meta, I think that you really got to think through, okay, are you at the staging layer? Are you at a layer where you're building according to a formal data warehousing methodology? Or are you downstream? Because duplicates can make it really far downstream sometimes in ways that you might be surprised by. To me, it's kind of a staging issue. It's when you're building your canonical models in you might call it a March layer, data warehouse, Kimball stars, whatever they are. That's where, when you're building those artifacts, you should have dealt with the occurrence of those duplicates. And that's as far as the train goes. But what do you guys think?
Yeah, I tend to agree with kind of nipping them in the bud as quickly as possible. I think being in a team of one, I tend to get up a little bit earlier in the process. So I love to get involved in the implementation of tracking, the thinking through how we're collecting data, because it saves me a lot of time downstream. It saves a ton of extra work for me. So I'm thinking, how are we tracking, making sure we're not duplicate tracking, making sure we don't have the same event firing twice. And then once I get it, it does happen because it does. Then it's just at the first model. So send it in raw, duplicate, and then clean it up as early as possible. So at your first model, tend to keep my models quite lean, don't have a ton of multiple layers, being that smaller team, easier to find, quicker to move through, quicker to update. The other thing that, I think of duplicates, but aren't technically duplicates is if you're doing an event schema and you have a raw log of that and someone did the same demo request, but it misfired and they went back in and they didn't think it worked. So they did the same demo request twice in 1 hour. Is that a duplicate? I tend to see those, even though technically they are duplicates. We don't want to double count where, up 50 this week, but it was really just an issue of the form kept reloading or something like that. So I tend to try and clean those up as well. I'll do a row number on hour for events that you don't expect to happen more than once in a day.
I'm glad that you talked a little bit about the use of this data and like some of the end metrics and products that could get created, because I do think this shows up more frequently than we give it credit to. For example, imagine that you're an e-commerce store and somebody makes a purchase and then they ask for an exchange and that creates a new order in your system. Do you consider that an entirely separate order, or do you consider that not an order at all? How do you measure that? And these are decisions that we have to make all the time. And depending on the reports that you're looking at, you may want to count them out. By the time that a duplicate hits Joe or hits you, Julie, I tend to be curious if it's a true duplicate, like a person being duplicated in a customer mart several times. I always get very, very curious about like who is generating the data upstream and the processes that are generating that data upstream, as well as can we just, if somebody's raising it for a particular use case, can we do something to slap a Band-Aid on it and then solve the process problem too?
I also feel like that's coloring mine and Julie's answers because I think in your experience, Julie, there's been more of an opportunity to pop your head around the corner or hit a Zoom or a Slack DM and huddle and be like, hey, you're the producer of this data. You need to clean it up in XYZ way. Whereas a lot of the context that I've been in, it may be a matter of having to figure out who that person is that's responsible for it or figure out how they coordinate their work. If there's projects or initiatives they're involved in and they have resources to be able to do something like fix a data quality issue. So I come at this with more of like scars of you get what you get from being in a large organization where I might have very little ability to dictate that something needs to change in the upstream system.
Yeah, one of my favorite census use cases was actually somebody who built a Slack messenger off of the logs that we populate off of the syncs that we were running, which records were accepted by destination, which were rejected. And it was just lacking a specific team who input data incorrectly, which was then resulting in these user customer records being rejected by Salesforce. It was just like a shame bot that just let people know, like, you got to go re-enter this human input column correctly or fill this thing out. That's a required field. It was really, really funny. But finding who those people are in the first place and getting their buy-in to actually change is definitely a hard problem as you grow in size.
That kind of cracks me up, Jeff, because I first became exposed to the whole reverse ETL space when I was looking for a way to take the rules and hierarchies and so forth that we had built in the data warehouse and use that to fix the problems in Salesforce that was our source, right? So it's like, we can code around this, but is there a way that we could actually fix this that's different from picking up the phone or DMing somebody and saying, please, 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 will you go in and fix these 1,000 records, right? Like, well, I can just use Census to ship in what I know is the right thing. And there we go.